What if the love story everyone was waiting for is about to break before it finally becomes forever? Secrets are getting darker, hearts are getting tested, and one shocking decision could change everything for Benedict and Sophie in ways no one expected. The biggest emotional storm in part 2 begins exactly where hearts were shattered, with Benedict Bridgerton's controversial offer to Sophie Beckett. For Benedict, the offer came from desperation, fear, and the harsh reality of his world. But for Sophie, it felt like betrayal. She had finally found the man she loved, the man who searched for her everywhere, the man who made her believe she could belong somewhere, and suddenly he was asking her to live in the shadows. Part 2 explores the emotional consequences of this moment in a much deeper way. Sophie is not just hurt, she is conflicted. Her heart still belongs to Benedict, but her dignity refuses to accept a life without respect. This internal struggle becomes one of the most powerful emotional journeys of the season, because viewers will see Sophie trying to decide whether love alone is enough when society stands against them. At the same time, Benedict begins to realize the damage he has caused. For the first time, he is forced to confront his privilege and the invisible walls that protect him but imprison Sophie. His guilt grows stronger when Sophie starts pulling away from him, not with anger, but with quiet disappointment. That silence hurts him more than any argument ever could. The audience will see Benedict entering a phase of emotional maturity, questioning his beliefs about class, family expectations, and what sacrifice truly means. This is where his character development becomes incredibly important, because he must decide whether he loves Sophie enough to risk everything: his status, his wealth, and possibly even his relationship with his family. But the romance is only one layer of the tension. The real danger begins when Sophie's past starts catching up to her. Her stepmother has not given up control, and her manipulative plans become darker than ever. She knows Sophie's true identity, she knows Benedict is searching for the mysterious lady in silver, and she intends to use that knowledge as a weapon. Moving closer to the Bridgerton family is not a coincidence. It is strategy. She wants power, security for her daughters, and social advancement, and Sophie is simply an obstacle in her way. Part 2 builds suspense around how far she is willing to go, and viewers will see her making accusations that could destroy Sophie's reputation completely. One of the most shocking turning points comes when Sophie faces public humiliation and legal trouble after being falsely accused. This moment creates intense emotional stakes because Sophie has no protection, no family name to defend her, and no proof of her truth. Watching her strength during this crisis will make audiences admire her even more. She refuses to beg for sympathy, refuses to reveal secrets that are not hers to expose, and instead accepts her fate with quiet courage. That strength is exactly what pushes Benedict to act. His love transforms from romantic longing into determination. He is no longer chasing a fantasy woman from a ball. He is fighting for the real woman standing in front of him. This is where another key figure may step into the story: Penelope Featherington, secretly known as Lady Whistledown. As someone who understands secrets better than anyone, Penelope could become the unexpected ally who helps reveal the truth about Sophie's birth and inheritance. The possibility that Sophie is not what society believes she is could completely change the power dynamics. The mystery surrounding her mother, her father's legacy, and the necklace she carries may finally come into focus, creating a dramatic revelation that removes the biggest obstacle between her and Benedict. But the path to that revelation will not be easy, and the suspense will keep viewers wondering whether help will arrive in time. Emotionally, this section of the story is about transformation: Sophie learning her worth, Benedict learning sacrifice, and their love evolving from fantasy into something real and tested. The tension comes from uncertainty. Will they break under pressure, or will the struggle make them stronger? Every conversation between them carries weight, every glance feels loaded with unsaid feelings, and every obstacle raises the stakes higher. By the end of this phase, audiences will feel that their relationship has reached a crossroads where one decision could lead to heartbreak, or to the beginning of the fairy tale ending everyone hopes for. And just when it feels like hope might return, new complications begin to rise, hinting that the biggest challenges for their love story are still ahead. While the emotional storm between Benedict Bridgerton and Sophie Beckett continues to intensify, Another beautiful and unexpected love story begins to take center stage. The journey of Violet Bridgerton. For years, Violet has been the heart of the family, the one guiding her children toward happiness while quietly carrying her own loneliness. But now, for the first time since losing her husband, she is allowing herself to truly feel love again with Lord Marcus Anderson. Their connection has been growing slowly, filled with comfort, understanding, and emotional maturity. And part 2 finally explores what happens when two people who have experienced life's losses decide to open their hearts again. What makes this storyline so powerful is the emotional contrast between Violet's past and her future. She once believed her love story ended forever, but Marcus brings warmth back into her life. Their relationship is not dramatic in the way younger romances are. Instead, it is gentle, steady, and deeply meaningful. However, that does not mean there is no tension. Violet struggles with guilt, wondering whether moving forward dishonors her late husband's memory. This internal conflict creates emotional depth because viewers see her torn between loyalty to the past and hope for the future. Marcus, on the other hand, is patient but also afraid. He knows Violet's heart is fragile, and he fears losing her if he pushes too quickly. Part 2 builds suspense around a possible life-changing decision, a marriage proposal. The idea that Violet might remarry is shocking, not only for society, but also for her children. Each member of the Bridgerton family reacts differently. Some feel happiness for her, while others experience confusion or even resistance, simply because they are not ready to imagine their mother with someone new. This creates family tension that feels realistic and emotional, reminding viewers that love stories do not exist in isolation. They affect everyone connected to them. At the same time, Violet's potential marriage creates major consequences for the family's future. If she chooses to move into Marcus's home, the famous Bridgerton house could change hands within the family. This possibility opens the door for the return of another beloved couple, Kate Sharma and Anthony Bridgerton. Fans who have been waiting to see them step fully into their roles as Viscount and Viscountess may finally get that moment. Their dynamic as a married couple brings a different energy. Playful, passionate, and confident, showing how love evolves after marriage, rather than ending with it. Their presence also strengthens the family during uncertain times, especially as Benedict faces emotional turmoil and Violet faces a major life decision. But happiness never comes without complications in this world. Society begins to whisper, questioning whether a widow remarrying is appropriate, especially someone of Violet's status. These rumors create external pressure that tests her confidence. For the first time, Violet experiences the same judgment her children often face, and this shared experience deepens her understanding of them. It also pushes her to realize that happiness sometimes requires bravery, regardless of society's expectations. Emotionally, this section of the story offers warmth and hope, but it also carries suspense because viewers do not know what Violet will choose. Will she follow her heart, or will fear hold her back? Will her family fully support her, or will unexpected conflicts arise? The possibility of 2 weddings in one season, hers and Benedict's, begins to feel real, creating anticipation for a grand, emotional finale. Meanwhile, beneath the surface of celebrations and romance, new storylines quietly begin forming, especially involving one Bridgerton sibling whose future love story may be more complicated than anyone expects. As romance blooms for some members of the family, another journey begins to unfold more quietly, but with powerful long-term consequences. The emotional path of Eloise Bridgerton. Unlike her siblings, Eloise has never been interested in marriage as a goal. She values independence, intellectual freedom, and the ability to define her own future. But Part 2 slowly begins to challenge her certainty, not by forcing her toward romance, but by awakening emotions she thought she had already left behind. This internal awakening creates a deeply relatable conflict because Eloise is not fighting against society alone. She is also fighting against her own heart. One of the most interesting possibilities is the return of Theo Sharp into her life. Their past connection was built on shared ideas, curiosity, and mutual respect, something very different from traditional romances in their world. If their paths cross again, the emotional tension will be immediate. Eloise may try to convince herself that nothing has changed, but viewers will see subtle signs that her feelings never truly disappeared. At the same time, Theo represents a different class background, which brings back the theme of social barriers, a theme already explored in Benedict and Sophie's story, but from a new perspective. The difference is that Eloise is fully aware of the risks, and that awareness makes her hesitation even more believable. There is also the possibility of letters entering her story again, hinting toward her future connection with Sir Philip Crane. Whether this storyline follows the books closely or takes a new direction, Part 2 may plant the first emotional seeds. A letter can seem simple, but in storytelling it carries anticipation, mystery, and emotional intimacy. The idea that Eloise could begin forming a connection through words rather than physical presence creates suspense, because viewers know something significant is beginning, even if the characters themselves do not yet realize it. What makes Eloise's arc especially compelling is her resistance. She does not want to lose her independence or become defined by romance the way society expects. This creates an internal battle where she questions whether love automatically means sacrifice. Through conversations with her siblings, particularly Benedict and Violet, she begins to understand that love can take many forms. Watching her slowly open to that possibility becomes a satisfying emotional progression that prepares the audience for her future season. Meanwhile, the Bridgerton family itself continues evolving. With Benedict facing emotional turmoil and Violet possibly considering remarriage, Eloise starts to recognize how much change is happening around her. Change has always made her uncomfortable because it represents losing control, but Part 2 shows her beginning to accept that growth is unavoidable. This maturity does not remove her independence. Instead, it strengthens it, allowing her to step into the next phase of her life with confidence. There is also subtle tension building around friendship dynamics, particularly with Penelope Featherington. Now that secrets have been revealed in previous seasons, their relationship is still healing. Moments of awkwardness, honesty, and emotional vulnerability add depth to both characters. Penelope's transformation into a more confident woman influences Eloise, even if she does not openly admit it. Seeing her former best friend happily married forces Eloise to confront questions about her own future, questions she cannot ignore forever. This section of the story focuses less on dramatic events and more on emotional groundwork. But that groundwork is essential. It builds anticipation for future seasons while keeping viewers invested in Eloise's personal growth right now. The suspense lies in uncertainty. Who will ultimately capture her heart? And will she allow herself to fall in love at all? By the end of this phase, audiences will feel that Eloise is standing at the beginning of a journey that could transform her life completely. And just as her emotional world begins shifting, another Bridgerton sibling story moves toward a heartbreaking turning point that will change the direction of the series moving forward. Yes, Bridgerton, Season 4, Part 2, Section 4. While new beginnings are forming for some characters, Part 2 also prepares viewers for one of the most emotional and life-changing storylines of the future, the journey of Francesca Bridgerton. Her story carries a completely different tone compared to the dramatic romance of Benedict and Sophie or the emotional rediscovery of Violet. Francesca's arc is quieter, more internal, and deeply personal, but the emotional impact is just as powerful. At this point in the story, she appears to have everything society considers perfect. Her marriage to John Sterling is stable, respectful, and kind. He treats her with patience and understanding, and there is genuine affection between them. Yet despite this, something inside Francesca feels incomplete. And Part 2 begins exploring that subtle but important feeling. What makes this storyline compelling is that Francesca herself does not fully understand what she is experiencing. She cares about John, she appreciates him, but the deep emotional spark that defines passionate love seems missing. This confusion creates internal conflict because she wonders whether something is wrong with her rather than with the relationship. Viewers will see her trying to convince herself that contentment should be enough, especially in a world where many marriages lack even basic respect. This emotional struggle is realistic and relatable, showing that love cannot always be forced into expected shapes. The turning point comes through the presence of Michaela Sterling, John's sister. Every interaction between Francesca and Michaela carries an energy that Francesca cannot ignore. There is curiosity, excitement, and an emotional intensity she has never felt before. At first, she may dismiss these feelings as admiration or friendship, but the audience will sense something deeper developing. This creates suspense because viewers know her journey is moving toward a major realization, even while she remains uncertain. Part 2 also begins quietly foreshadowing tragedy. Subtle hints about John's health or future circumstances may appear, creating emotional tension beneath otherwise calm scenes. The possibility of loss changes how audiences interpret every moment between him and Francesca. Even happy scenes carry a layer of sadness because viewers sense that time may be limited. This storytelling technique builds anticipation for future seasons, while making the current relationship feel meaningful rather than temporary. Emotionally, Francesca's storyline explores identity, understanding who she truly is and what kind of love fulfills her. In a society with strict expectations, this journey becomes even more complicated. She is not only questioning her feelings, but also confronting the fear of judgment and misunderstanding. The show may gradually portray her realization that love does not always follow traditional paths, and accepting that truth requires courage. At the same time, her family begins noticing subtle changes in her behavior. Small moments, lingering glances, thoughtful silences, or emotional reactions hint that something is shifting inside her. These observations create anticipation because viewers know her loved ones will eventually become part of this journey, whether through support or conflict. The Bridgerton family's strong bonds mean that Francesca will not face her transformation alone, but it also means her choices will affect many people. This section builds toward an emotional future where grief, self-discovery, and new love intertwine. By the end of Part 2, audiences will feel that Francesca is standing at the edge of a life-changing chapter, one that will likely define an entire season ahead. The combination of tenderness, uncertainty, and quiet longing makes her storyline one of the most emotionally layered arcs in the series, and as these personal journeys move closer to their turning points, the season itself begins heading toward a grand and dramatic conclusion where multiple love stories may finally collide in unforgettable ways. As the season moves toward its climax, all emotional threads begin connecting, leading to a finale filled with romance, revelations, and life-changing decisions. The central question remains whether Benedict Bridgerton and Sophie Beckett can overcome every obstacle standing between them. By this point, Benedict is no longer the man who offered Sophie a hidden life. He has transformed through guilt, love, and self-reflection. The fear of losing her completely forces him to confront the reality that love without respect is meaningless. This realization becomes the emotional foundation for his final decisions. Instead of asking Sophie to fit into his world, he begins reshaping his world to include her. That shift represents true character growth, and it is exactly what audiences have been waiting to see. The suspense builds when long-hidden truths about Sophie finally begin surfacing. The mystery surrounding her birth, her mother's past, and the inheritance connected to her family could be revealed through unexpected allies. Evidence that she is not simply a servant, but someone with noble roots, changes everything. Society's biggest barrier, class, suddenly weakens, but emotional wounds still remain. Sophie must decide whether she can trust Benedict again after the pain he caused. This emotional hesitation keeps viewers on edge because love alone does not guarantee forgiveness. Their reunion, if it happens, must feel earned. At the same time, another major milestone may unfold: the possible engagement or marriage of Violet Bridgerton and Lord Marcus Anderson. If Violet chooses happiness again, it symbolizes hope not only for herself, but for her entire family. Her decision shows that love does not belong only to the young, and that second chances can be just as beautiful as first ones. This development also creates structural changes within the Bridgerton household, possibly allowing Anthony Bridgerton and Kate Sharma to step more fully into leadership roles. Their presence during the finale would add warmth, humor, and emotional unity, reminding viewers why the Bridgerton family remains the heart of the series. Season 4, Part 2 ultimately promises passion, heartbreak, redemption, and unforgettable romance, delivering exactly the kind of dramatic and emotional experience that fans have been waiting for.